Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth video in the series on building an AI investing assistant. In this video, we're going to show how we can access a database using natural language by converting simple text questions into database queries. We're going to essentially have a conversation with the database. The AI assistant we're building is like an investing co-pilot. It helps to inform intelligent investing decisions by performing financial analysis and answering questions about any stock. In the last video, we covered the data loading module of the application. This is the part of the app that gives the investing assistant access to real-time, up-to-date financial data. I've included links to the first 3 videos of the series in the description. Next, we're going to use OpenAI's GPT models to convert natural language text into SQL queries so that we can access the real-time information in our database. This involves writing a well-crafted prompt that provides detailed instructions and parameters to the model. For example, I can ask in natural language, what was Apple's annual revenue growth in 2022? This question gets inserted into a prompt, which is sent to a large language model like GPT. It's then transformed into a database query, which extracts the information we need, in this case being the revenue for 2022 and 2021. Once we have this data, we can combine it with the original question and send it through the LLM again with a different prompt in order to get the answer. We could generate these queries with just one run through the LLM, but in practice I found that breaking the process up into 2 steps increases the accuracy. The first run through the model generates a description of the data we need and a list of the columns from the database. This information is then combined with the question and run through the language model again in order to generate the query. Okay, let's take a look at how this works in the code. The text to SQL conversion is basically handled in one module, which is the nl to sql.py file. And this module contains 2 functions. So there's the query DB function. All this does is it connects to the MySQL database and it executes a query and retrieves the data. But the function that actually handles the text to SQL conversion is nl to data. So it takes in the user question, which is just a text string, and then it uses this function GPT endpoint to access the OpenAI GPT API. So GPT endpoint, this is just imported from the GPT API module. And this is essentially just a wrapper around the GPT endpoint. And it allows me to specify the user input, specify a model, and then also the prompt. So the first run through the model is done here. And this is where we're just getting a description of the data that's required to answer the user's question. I'll show you what the prompt looks like as well. So right at the top, we're just specifying the task, which is to identify the necessary data from the database. We're providing a description of the input, which is the user question. We're specifying all of the columns that the database contains that GPT can select from in terms of serving the data. And then there's just some additional information like specifying that the calendar year and the period category have to be present in the query, some contextual information, and then the output requirement. So this just basically tells the model what information we want to get back, as well as the format that we want to get it in. So after we execute this line, we add that information to the user question into a single string, and then we do a second run through GPT. And this run is to actually generate the SQL query. And then also we can take a look at what this prompt looks like. Gives the instruction at the top, create an SQL query based on the following criteria, provides information on the input, specifies what we want in the query, also lists the columns which are contained in the database, and provides specifications in terms of an output. And then once we have the query, we use the query DB function to actually get the data from the database. What this function returns is a Python dictionary that contains the original question, a description of the data required, the query that's generated, and then the data that that query extracts. So all of this information is actually going to be used in the final phase, which is answering the question. I'll show you what this data looks like by just running an example question. We can start with something simple like what was the annual revenue growth in the most recent fiscal year. So this is all the information that there's the original user question. Then there's the description of the data, which specifies we need the revenue, calendar year columns. We need the years for 2022 and 2023, and we need the period category annual. And then this is the query that it generates here from this line of text, which is just select the calendar year and revenue from financials table where the period category is annual and the calendar year is 2022 or 2023, and then order by calendar year. And then finally, the data that it pulls out of the database is just the revenue for 2023 and the revenue for 2022. And of course, this, along with the rest of the information, is going to be used in the next stage of the program in order to actually generate the answer. But this is providing the real-time data to generate an accurate answer. We can also try something a little more complicated as well. How about provide a financial analysis and assessment of a company's financial performance over the last 5 fiscal years. Include an analysis of the revenue and EPS growth, margins, profitability, and balance sheet health and debt leverage. Because this is a more complicated question, it's going to take a little more time to generate the query and all of the data. Now this is finished. We'll see the results. Right, so right away as we have that original question, we have a description of all the data we need. So it's getting the revenue, the earnings per share, gross profit margins, operating income, a lot of balance sheet items, cash, debt, quite a bit of information here, and it's correctly pulling it for the 5 most recent fiscal years, and these are for the annual periods. This is the query that it's generating here, which looks pretty good. And then the data it's producing, it's getting from the database from this query is right here. So essentially all of the annual data from 2023 back to 2019 for these financial items. And then later on, again, we will run that through GPT a third time in order to get the answer in the analysis and the assessment. Okay, that's it for now. In the last video, we handled the data loading. In this video, we converted text into SQL queries. And in the next video, we're going to handle question answering and actually generate a usable, useful answer that helps inform an investment decision. If you like this video, please subscribe or put a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.